Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host John. With me is my co-host Jacob.
What's up?
And today we're going to be talking about the Three Body Problem series on Netflix that just came out. We'll be going over our thoughts, how we felt the show was, maybe a little bit about how it compares to the book, or like what, kind of a little bit.
Yeah, we'll touch on it.
Otherwise, we're just going to get into it. There'll be heavy spoilers, obviously. So if you haven't watched the show, probably don't click on this. We'll just get started. So, Jacob, what'd you think of the show?
You know, watching this show, I binge watched it all in 2 days, and I had a lot of different thoughts. And at first, I was so worried after the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were gonna rush through so much that I was I just felt the pace through the first episode was just fast, and I'm like, they're just gonna burn through book one like really quick.
Completely agree.
Yeah. And then after episode 2, I started to feel a little different. I was like, okay, they definitely slowed it down in episode 2, and then I felt like from episode 2 to like episode 5, I think that they like really found like a good pace, and I was enjoying the storyline. And then what kind of surprised me, which I guess is the biggest spoilers, is they kind of just started integrating storylines and characters from the second and third books, which I was not expecting at all. And so seeing them integrate that, it was a surprise, but I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing. I guess we'll see where it goes in the future, but overall, I enjoyed the show, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, so, I mean, just a little background. Both you and I both watched the first 2 episodes together. We had, luckily, someone that hasn't read the books watch it with us, and we were kind of bouncing off him after the first 2 episodes what he thought. Because just like you, that first episode, the pacing was all over and like felt way too fast, and I know we were both like, what is going on, because they were just burning. It's like the first episode literally covers half the book. I know we're not going to talk about the book, but it's still like, for people that have read the book and the series, it's just like, what is going on? So that first episode was like, oh no, D&D did it again. I was already ready to quit. Like, I was like, this show's over. Like, they're going to try to fit all 3 books in 2 seasons or something, but the second episode was, I mean, maybe, because Netflix doesn't like more than 2 seasons.
Yeah, Netflix is known for canceling a lot of their shows, so maybe that played into their decision making here, but we'll see.
But yeah, the pacing for the first episode was so rushed and weird. And then I know after watching 2, and like I think when we started 2, because we're both on the same page, and like we're biased in the fact that we love the series, and it's hard. Like, I think this is the first time I've watched a show from like a series, right, that I like, so it was really hard to separate it, because you get you just like the story, you like how it progresses, and so you want it to be created faithfully. And so when the first episode is literally half the book, and then characters are completely different, and other characters from the other books are in, it's just like, what is going on? But after that first episode, I think you and I were both, I remember you making a comment like immediately after the start of the second, like, I'm just going to stop talking. I'm just going to watch. And I felt the exact same way, because it's like, if we're going to, not being book snobs, but it might come off as that, but yeah, it's like, we're not going to enjoy this if we keep, being like, oh my God, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? We just got to sit back, finish the series. Because I think we both said at the time watching them, we're like, we just got to see what they do with the rest, and then we can either hate it or love it. So that was a little bit of a struggle to like mentally try to not be too judgmental.
Yeah, I felt when we were watching the first 2 episodes that I was, not necessarily like getting angry about the changes. I think me and you kind of just started pointing out, we're like, oh, they're going fast, and they've changed this, and this character, like, wasn't in the books, or is, but it's a different name and stuff. and we were just pointing out all the changes, that it was just like, you know what? I'm just going to stop pointing out the changes. I'm just going to watch the show, enjoy it, and hopefully these changes make sense. And for the most part, I felt like every change that they've made and the timing they've done, it hasn't done anything negative up to this point, in my opinion. Like, I still think they can tell the exact story, but I do think there are elements of the story that are missing. And if you don't have anything else you want to touch on, I'd be interested in moving on to that. Of just, I mean,
I'll just like, I kind of agree with you. Like, they've done a pretty good job. Like, you know, coming from Game of Thrones, where you're worried because the final like 3 seasons were terrible. But I will say they've done a good job. You can tell where there's certain interpretations of however they wanted to change it up. Names, characters are different, but nothing too major. Once we get into it, I'll like probably we'll either have the same thoughts or different. We'll get into those, but I think overall, it was. I enjoyed the series, but I mean, we're a little biased in that regard.
We knew we were gonna enjoy it.
We're gonna enjoy it out of the way, especially being able to like visualize some of the stuff after reading it, because reading it, one thing is like each book is like 15 to 20 plus hours, if I'm not mistaken.
You might be correct. And you're talking about like listening to the books.
Listening, we didn't read them. We listened to them on Audible, but so like like they were definitely in for a pretty tough job of scaling it back to an 8-episode series, which I feel like maybe a 10 episodes would have been cool, but you know, they managed to do, I think, a very good job in 8. And I don't really have like a rating for the show, but it's definitely something that I would highly recommend, even though I don't have a rating, because like I'm just too biased to be like, oh yeah, this is a great show. Like I can't give it a rating, but I will say I recommend it. And it was interesting to like talk to someone after the first 2 episodes that's never read the books and have their thoughts, and then it's just interesting to hear what other people think, because just to touch on the first episode again, after you and I, like, after we watched it, it was just like, is this like gonna be a good show or is this gonna be a flop? Because like the pacing of the first one, I can see it making some people maybe be like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you that like I haven't thought about like what rating I would give it out of 10 or anything like that, but that I just enjoyed it. And when people ask me, you know, oh, is this a good show that I watch, or like should I watch, I usually kind of preface that like I really enjoyed it, but this is like heavy science fiction. Like, this is not like your typical like average show meant for
like
just
sci-fi action type.
Yeah, like sci-fi action. This is like truly
Theories
science fiction with theories and you know, just things that you don't think about on a normal day, you know, like unfolding dimensions.
Yeah, and it's like hard to just have the average person understand, because even reading the books, like I found myself having to look up stuff and like try to understand it better, because the books do a pretty good job, but it's still like hard science. And like I'd say they did a very good job. Obviously, they have to make it dumb it down a bit to make it more digestible, but
when you consider
this isn't a
how technical
like
the books are.
Sorry, this isn't like a typical sci-fi show, I'd say.
Yeah, like you brought up like the books. They're very technical, and there's a lot of like scientific terminology used, and like the author does not like skip out on like just going into detail explaining exactly what he wants you to like understand and visualize, no matter like how high level of a concept it is. And so when you put yourself in D&D's shoes on like trying to bring this to a TV show, like they do have to make changes. Like you can't just have a character giving a monologue about unfolding a proton because you ain't gonna have anyone watching after that.
I know we're jumping around, but like, no, we'll talk about that when we get to it. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Well, that was kind of my finishing thoughts on terms of bringing it to TV, and it's science fiction, so it's a heavy science fiction, and I tell people something along that line. So I don't know if a non-science fiction enjoyer, how they would look at this show, because I would say our group of friends probably is all pretty interested in that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's definitely like you just have to. I keep bringing up people that haven't watched or read the book because I'm just curious how those people, like, how they get hooked. And I was gonna ask you if you can, because I know you watched the show, you watched the whole series with our friend, right?
Yeah, can we name drop?
Yeah, we can name drop. We watched it with Prentice, so. I think you watched the whole series, right?
Yeah, we watched the first 2 episodes, the 3 of us all together, and then I finished the rest of the series with Prentice, and he has not read the books, but I would say he is a very what's the word, he enjoys some of that like high level, he likes to be challenged, he likes problem solving,
critical thinking,
stuff
like that,
yeah. So he doesn't necessarily fit the criteria of maybe an average viewer that might just be like looking for something new to watch on Netflix. But he was very invested in the show, and I don't know if we negatively impacted him after the first 2 episodes. But I remember by episode 2, that was what we watched the first night, and then he immediately wanted to keep going.
Yeah, I remember him asking you.
Yeah, he's like, "So you want to
finish it tomorrow?" It's like, damn, all right.
So he was very interested, and I remember we got to episode 5, which I thought was probably the best episode of the season, perhaps Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
And we were watching that episode, and he was just like very invested, And by the end of it, he's like, "All right," he's like, "This is really good." He's like, "We got to finish tonight."
Yeah. So I think what we both wanted to do is, I know we keep bringing up the books, and I think we'll have a separate discussion for like actual differences, but we'll kind of touch certain topics. I think I don't even know where to go from here.
All right, let's start off with the fact that the main character in the book is not in the show.
The main character, he is, but he's played by
he's played by Augie. It's Augie.
Augie, yeah, the character's Augie, and definitely takes a back seat, I'd say. Like, so basically the main character from the books is split into 5. I wouldn't even say split.
We were thinking it was going to be split, but at the end of the day, I think all 5 of those characters are kind of their own.
They
individuals that we didn't expect them to be introducing some of those characters early, so we were assuming they were kind of new characters.
I remember,
but
so essentially the main characters, but I feel like there's 1 or 2 that are. After all 8 episodes, you could tell who are the bigger characters, but let's just say for now, the first season has 5 main characters, and it jumps from each person's point of view and how they're dealing with everything. I guess the one that's kind of basically the main character from the book is Augie. So she's the nanoscientist. I don't even know what to call her.
Nanotechnology scientist
lady. Yeah. Which for the book is the main character, and he plays a very heavy role. Because the book just completely follows his point of view. Besides following Yao and Jia's point of view, which we also get in the show. But she's also like not really. I definitely consider her a minor character. And even in the
With-
show, they call them the Oxford Five. So those 5 characters, which is Augie, Saul Durand, Jack Rooney, which is also kind of like a minor character.
Yeah.
Jin Chang, and then I'm missing one. Oh, Will Downing.
Will, yeah.
Will. And I think by episode 2, I think I made a comment to you. I think it was episode 2 that when Will Downing's characters gets cancer, I'm like, oh, watch, they're gonna make this guy the guy from book 3, and which
that's exactly what they did. Yeah, Young Tian Ming, I think his name was Tian Ming.
Yeah, so I think what D&D is doing is they're taking bits from definitely from book 1 and 2 for sure, but even introducing stuff from book 3, and it's kind of hard because you don't want to spoil stuff. But
I won't spoil anything specifically from book 3, but me and Prentice were talking because he was kind of asking, like my thoughts and some of the characters, and I actually think what they did was kind of smart, bringing in characters like Thomas Wade, Jin, and Will. Like, these characters are not in book 1 at all. Like, not just
even
name
Saul,
changes.
like book 2.
Yeah, even Saul's character, like, even if like we gave them the names that they ended up having in the books, like, they're not in book 1 at all. But what happens a lot in the books is these characters go into like cryogenic sleep for like 50, 60 years at a time. And so, like, in the books, like, Saul and Augie are like nowhere near the same age. So, like, it wouldn't make sense to have, like, them be a much older character in the show. And, like, you don't want to be introducing a complete new cast every season. Of,
That,
like, oh, yeah, we're
especially
jumping
when
60 years.
Yeah, especially when you're not focusing on just one. Because in the books, it works. First, it's a longer series, like 20 plus hours
Mm-hmm.
for each book. But, like, when breaking it down into a show, it definitely makes much more sense because starting from season 1, you can develop
Those characters.
the characters. You introduce them, you get some character development. Depending on how many seasons they choose, you're going to most likely be around with them. So you'll get the full character development and not just be like, oh, here's a new character. Bam. Yep. Enjoy him for like a season or however many.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, I remember when we first were watching it, or getting excited for this, that was definitely one of my negatives. Like, they broke them down. They're gonna introduce these people we're not gonna care about. But I definitely 180'd. Like,
yeah,
I do like what they're doing.
It's a win.
And even in the first season, you get tons of character development. It might not be like super major for each character, but there's still some character development that'll keep you connected to the 5, aka 4, because Jack Rooney gets murked. Which I thought was a shame a little, but I mean, like, I guess
I agree. I thought that he was the comic relief of this series, and now he's
and
gone.
I don't even like. I know sometimes comedic relief characters are just like, oh, they're just cliche or stereotype, but like I thought he did more of like a natural, like, what would someone in 2024
the circumstance,
like?
Yeah,
especially when he's rich and, like, I mean, he's super smart, but he's essentially like the super rich friend, and the way he acts is like how you kind of expect. Yeah. Like, you're just your bro to
he's
be
a good
from
support
school.
Character.
Yeah.
He was a good support character.
I don't know. It's hard to, like, I guess when we try to focus on the show.
So, all right, let's focus on something, the direction that maybe I thought the show was going to go. I'd have to re-listen to our trailer takes on where we thought the show was going to be focused on, but
kind of remember, I think we were both on the same page that it was going to be more murder mystery.
Yeah,
in which we didn't talk about in the trailer because it would be a spoiler about the aliens, but I still thought they would save that for the
finale. Mm-hmm.
This was not really a murder mystery.
Not
it was
at all.
definitely like, I don't even know. It just wasn't like it was there, but it felt very background to the whole story.
Yeah, so I definitely thought they were going to spend a good portion of the show being uncovering like why are the scientists all like killing themselves? What does this countdown mean? And like what's going to happen to Augie when the countdown hits 0 for her, cuz like they show that she's got that countdown pretty early on. And cuz in the books that's kind of this, part of the main storyline. You've got your main character Wong, and he's working with detective Sh to figure things out. Clarence in the show.
Clarence in the show.
So I really thought that like there was going to be at least a solid like half the season of like just trying to figure out like, oh, what is going on here, and like what this mystery is.
But after episode 1, it was like, nah. It was just because it's the numbers, which is literally the biggest plot element of book 1. And I know we keep bringing up the book, but it's just gonna keep happening. But it's the biggest plot element, and here it's just like a little like, just like almost like a casual mention. I will say, I don't remember it being in the books, but the Sophons, which is what's making them see whatever they want, aka the numbers.
Yeah.
It's definitely more, I guess, like, they basically let you see whatever they want you to see, and for, let's just say, when Jack Rooney dies, like, Clarence Dasha doesn't even see that happening, which I think in the books they strictly left it to literally seeing numbers, and like,
yeah,
that was one way. The Lord, or the Trisolarans in the show, they're called the Solari,
the Santi.
Sorry,
Santi. No, you're good.
The Santi, and that's how they mainly communicated, almost through like text through your eyes for people that for following. Yeah.
So that was a slight change, which when you talked about Jack's murder, and like he was looking right at that window and couldn't see anything, but we knew the character's name is Tatiana, in case they only like mention her name like once or twice, I think, but but like they almost give like Tatiana this like paranormal activity-esque like scenes where she's on camera, but then she's really not on camera.
They scrub her from it.
So like I guess you could like conclude that the Sophons are like removing her from any footage. Like I'm not even sure how they would remove, like from film it would make sense, but from digital I'm not too sure.
I think it's just they block her out of it.
It seems like in the show they're just saying like, we can make you literally see whatever we want you to see,
which I think adds a pretty big element, because it's like it shows just how much more powerful their tech is. And when they start showing how the Sophon was created, it's like, these people, the Santi, I was gonna say Solari again. The Santi are just so much more advanced than humanity. But there's just, I don't know, sticking to the show. I mean,
let's try to stick to the show for the rest.
I'm having a little trouble because it's like I want to talk about the other, but it's like,
all right. So what
we're focusing on the show, not the books.
What was your I don't know, maybe your favorite part of the show, or whether that's like what drew you in and you were like highly invested into the scene, or maybe something that the show did that isn't in the books or is contrast in the books, and you're like, oh, but it's good. Like what did we like about this?
I will say Judgment Day was probably my favorite episode, but any of the VR stuff was very cool, because and the VR stuff, the game stuff, even felt a little minor. In the trailer, it makes it a lot major.
I feel like it was important, but not
it was
like the entire show,
No,
it was just there.
I want to say it was over 5 would have been the end, right? 4. Around 4, they were kind of done.
To really quickly just supplement your thought, one of Prentice's thoughts after we had watched is he said his favorite scenes were the 1960s flashbacks to when Jazz like passed, and then also the VR scenes. He said there should have been more VR scenes into that world because that was the something that interested him.
Yeah, because it was like the mysterious. It was like how first off these people have tech. Secondly, the game, you're trying to understand it as the characters understand it. And I will say, like, maybe that'll probably be a negative for me, but it was like they definitely didn't rely on the game as much, I felt. Which is a shame because it almost felt like they're kind of speed running through it, which is fine. But like there was some cool moments from the books that I felt like they were quickly glossed over. It was like almost every time there was a VR session, they found a solution, which I feel like should have maybe taken longer, but that's just me.
I think that could just be we gotta get this show rolling. We gotta get this show rolling. So something that I definitely enjoyed the VR scenes, and I think what you said earlier, like 10 episodes, like 10 to 12 episodes, and I think we could have gotten more VR scenes and maybe spaced out those like 1960s flashbacks, because I feel like they all happened in like the first 2 episodes, and I think some of them could have been better placed in later episodes to kind of, instead of just use it to provide background information, kind of use it to like reveal something like, oh, she's like, this is why she did this, or this is, what caused her to, make those decisions. And although I don't think it hurts the show not having like a big focus on like the murder mystery part, one like glaring negative to me was that Augie, like, and the countdown, I never really felt in danger for her life.
Yeah.
I really wish they would have, like, just given, like, a little more time to flesh that out so that, like, we get to like Augie, like, early on, like, she's the main focus those first 2 episodes, and then be like, oh my god, like, are they gonna, like, what's gonna happen when this countdown hits 0?
Yeah, and see, the numbers play the countdown plays such a heavy role in the books. And here it was definitely like, even when she turns on for the, like, finally is like, someone is like a minute Jack left. Dies.
Yeah.
It was like a couple seconds left when she finally, like, decides, like, someone to do this. And then you don't even get to see the numbers, like, not appear. You just get her, like, I think you're supposed to infer her emotions, but you don't until she says it. And then Dasha Clarence is like, oh, maybe the Lord isn't protecting them anymore.
Yeah.
Or isn't, I don't, he said something around those lines, because it's after it's not after, it's before the boat scene. But you lose an impact of that.
Yeah, I just never felt the weight of, like, what was going to happen to her if it hit 0. Because we didn't really, like, see it go down that much for her, I feel like, until it was just, like, at the very end with, like, getting the nanotech, like, test complete, and then she immediately, like, turns it off. And it's not to say that, like, this hurts the story, because I still think they progressed, like, through a pretty compelling story of, like, trying to get you interested into, who's, like, what is this game, who created it, who is this, like, other, planet we're communicating with? Like, I think everything was still, like, interesting and compelling. I just personally would have enjoyed more story of, like, with the mystery part of it.
Trying to figure out what is going on.
I guess at the end I'm just like, I just wanted more episodes to enjoy it, because I think it was good, and I just wish we could have fleshed out book 1 a little bit more.
Yeah, I will say, I think another negative for me is just the reveal of the aliens kind of takes out the weight of, it almost shifts the weight of the story, in that it jumps. So, like, the first part is, like, a very minor, but it's like, oh, why are all these scientists killing each other? And then it's like, oh, look, here's the game. Oh, look, aliens. And then finally the next solution is like, which is the rest of the show, basically. From 5 on, even maybe a little bit of 4 is just like, how are we gonna stop these aliens from killing us?
So
I feel like, just like you, is that mystery part is gone, and it's almost, to me, felt like we got to hit these checkboxes. I don't want to say this is like a filler season, because it's not. It definitely sets it up, but it definitely leaves so many different threads for, like, clearly they're like, well, we'll save all this for next season. Make sure we hit these topics now.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe that's a pacing issue, but like I mean, we both agree that after 2, the pacing was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But it's still like missing. It's almost missing like maybe not the hook, but like some meat to the whole story, I felt like.
So tell me if you agree with me or not on this point, but do you think the aliens, like just introducing that earlier on, like, midway through the show, rather than like that being like an episode 7 or 8 reveal, do you think that is for the more like casual, like, oh, we got to get people interested, we got to get the casuals, like, they're not going to wait around till episode 8 to figure out like if this is aliens, like, we got to, like, you think this is like a Netflix algorithm that they're like, the first 3 episodes are like the most important, and we gotta get people's attention right away?
I remember you saying that after 2, or maybe after 1, but 2 for sure. Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's because it's like the hook, basically.
Because, I mean, for us, like, we would be willing to, like, obviously watch it all out and like wait for a big reveal at the end of the season, but some people might just, like, the more casual viewers that are less interested in science fiction might just be like, I don't know where this is going. I'm not interested. Like, it's probably nothing on the other end of those, communications.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that statement of they immediately show the aliens, because that's kind of the big hook.
The hook.
And then, I mean, like, let's be real. The biggest thing is probably to be like, oh, what are these aliens going to look like and all that. So I could see why.
And oh boy, am I going to have bad news for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see why they did that. Do I agree with it? No, but it is what it is. I know we're jumping around a bunch, but that's fine. We're loose cannons.
Yeah, we're just having a little free talk, freestyling it.
I will say, like I touched on it earlier, but the VR definitely felt super short. Those could have definitely been longer. I could probably see why they didn't, budget reasons, just to create those.
Yeah, those are probably the most expensive scenes right there, for sure.
Probably. And it was good, but maybe it's because we know the background, but to me it just felt like the answers were just like, let me show you the problem. Oh, I have a solution for that. And I mean,
they did solve everything very quickly.
They use Jin as the main character to solve them, but like, even with her, it's like she has maybe like a couple days. There's not really like a big timeline, like how they show the time flow, but like, I feel like they show her struggling with the first problem of trying to figure it out, and then after that, everything just comes together very easily for her. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Maybe it's literally that first episode issue, I think, is maybe our biggest issue, because I think by 3, she's all like, oh no, their big thing is to survive, and then that makes her push her to the next thing, and then basically the VR stuff is done after 5 for sure, but maybe even 4, because I think 5, the only time they go into the VR is
for like
they wanted Wade to see something, which we could talk about, which is the proton, the Sophon creation,
unfolding,
Sophons, which we'd have to go back and listen to it, but I remember it being so much more cooler in the books. And I'll talk about it this time, just because it was so much, like, the difference is pretty major. But I will say they did they like lightly touched on it. If I recall, when in the books, when they're describing and showing the character how they made the sophons, I'm almost positive when they unfolded the proton, and because oh shoot, see now I'm gonna get confused because it gets weird. I want to say when they unfolded it, it becomes big because it has more dimensions, right?
Yes,
Or
I thought.
yeah, okay.
Which it does in the show.
It just does
gets
in the show.
Yeah, it unfolds and covers like the entire skyline.
In the book, essentially a being from a higher dimension kind of takes over the sophons and just like laser beams the planet, the Santi's planet. And I thought that was very cool, and I wish we would have seen it. I remember watching the episodes, the show, and I was like, oh, I completely forgot about that. So when they finally did, I'm like, oh yes, and then they didn't. I was like, oh, because it's just such a weird and like kind of cool moment where it's just like, oh look, we basically built circuits on this proton, and then the proton kind of, the being from another dimension just decides to like kill them,
Yeah,
which they survived, but it's still like it would have been cool to see. Which, yeah, and I know that was our thing with partly why we were excited with the show is just being able to visualize some of the stuff. But they didn't have it in the show, which is fine. But I definitely think they did a very good job of describing how the sophons were created. Because if I remember, I had to like re-listen to that a few times and like focus on it because it's just so high concept. And even like, I mean, like literally seconds ago, I was just like, I think I'm getting this right because it's so confusing.
Yeah, listening to books is great, but it's a lot harder to go back and reread something if you think you misunderstood it. You don't have the text to just like move your eyes back up a few lines or turn the page back. Like you have to rewind.
Yeah, it was a very cool scene even in the show. Definitely super high concept though, so I hope people are more in awe than like confused.
Which I do think they got that. I don't think anyone like should have been super confused after they explained like, hey, we unfolded this and it got really big and we put a computer on it.
Just one little tidbit before we continue is, I don't know if you noticed, unless I'm wrong, that the little girl in the game is Vera as a young kid.
Is it now?
Because I think when Gia looks at a photo and it's her.
Oh,
it's her when they were younger and when obviously Vera was younger.
Yes,
but I might be wrong. But I'm pretty sure that was it. Because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's who that little girl is.
And for anyone new watching that might not be as knowledgeable, Vera is the scientist who kills herself by jumping into the particle accelerator.
Oh yeah,
very early on in the show.
Yeah, which is when Gia's daughter. So, we didn't talk about it yet, but the flashbacks, I thought they did a good job on flashbacks. So we'll agree with Prentice. Focusing on the flashbacks is cool because it automatically allows you to see the mindset of why a certain character's actions later on, and in this case years on, why she does certain things and why her mentality is a certain way. And I definitely think that was they did a pretty good job, just like the Chinese show of Chinese version of this. It still feels a little light compared to the books, but I mean it's gonna happen either way.
I'm really just coming to the conclusion based on kind of every point we're hitting on is I feel like it's good, but a lot of things could have been better if they just had more episodes or more time. Yeah, more time to dive into some of these. And whether that's a Netflix budgeting thing or maybe that's D&D saying we can get it all done in 7 episodes again, but
D&D's like try Solars. Nobody wants to say that.
But it's good.
That one feels like an algorithm thing too. I know it's off topic, but that name
the name
feels like
the Santi.
Yeah.
All right. Wait. Do you know what Santi means in Chinese?
No.
It means three body.
Oh wait, they say that in there, don't they?
Yeah.
I still like
Which
trisolarans.
fun fact for our listeners: our friend Prentice speaks Mandarin and some other Chinese dialects, and he immediately picked that up and thought it was a cool name. He's like, oh, that's good.
Yeah. I don't know. It's trying to think of what else.
I want to shout out a quick scene that I enjoyed.
Go for it.
Was I believe in episode 5, it could have been 4, and it is with Mike Evans on the Judgment Day ship speaking to the Lord, and he's like reading stories, and he reads, Little Red Riding Hood, and I thought just the delivery of the lines in that scene were just perfect with the Lord, from over the intercom, just asking, "May I speak with the wolf?" Thinking that the wolf is a real living being that she can speak. Yeah,
she's like, well, what forest are they in?
Yeah, what forest? What name?
Where can I go? Yeah, no, they did
that was a good scene. It really
I was wondering how they're gonna do it, and I think they did a good job because it also showed basically the end of that scene is, the Santi are like, you guys are all liars, we can't trust you, and then literally says, we fear you, and then the look on Mike Evans's face, and then him trying to talk to her and they're not replying. It's like, it definitely shows the horror of I feel like Mike Evans was like, oh god, what did they just understood? Because to him it's like, yeah, it's normal to lie, but as the Santi have said, they communicate basically thought, so you can't hide that, and they inherently don't understand it, so it was a very good scene. Even all the other little bits of him talking was very good, because you can see at least maybe because I think it's pretty obvious to see that it's oh, they're trying to understand, and you could see where certain parts where they don't understand, and one of them is definitely lying and keeping certain thoughts hidden, or metaphors, insinuations, little nuances that you get from speech that they do not understand, because that's not how they communicate. So that was very cool.
And when they learn that information, despite it kind of being kind of a funny scene from a viewer's perspective, oh, we can laugh, this they don't understand what a story is or what a lie is, but from their perspective, they're just wait, we're headed to this planet under the word of this person that's saying they're helping us, but now we've just learned that words could not mean what they're supposed to mean.
Yeah, and
so, they're scared.
It's pretty obvious just with what happens afterwards, but it's such a tonal shift in the fact that for the Santi, that's when they decide they become almost, maybe they don't become, but they let their agents and certain stuff happen, becomes more aggressive, where I don't know if it's in that scene or later, where they're yeah, we can't coexist with you all, aka wipe you all out.
Yeah, they say it at the end of that scene. They're we can't coexist with you. They don't say we're gonna kill you right now on the spot, but yeah, you can infer they're no, they're no longer thinking about coexisting from that point on, because they're we have no idea what information that you've provided is actually true to what we know to be true, and they're terrified.
And I guess that kind of could lead us to a pretty major scene, definitely one of the more what's the word, spectacle of a scene, which is the boat scene. When they go to Panama and fiber.
I thought it looked great. I thought it was awesome.
It looked. Oh my god! I always forget that this is a Netflix, so there's they can kind of go all out with what they show, and my god,
I'm glad they didn't show the kids. I was not
expecting it.
I'm glad they were on the top deck. I think they're playing basketball or something. And then like I was like, oh, please cut to somewhere else on the ship. Do not show the kids. It just
The
get like
kids,
turned into
which
blocks
they
of
don't
cheese
until like the
until
end.
like the very very end. Yeah, we see the
But
during
that's
the
it's such a horrifying scene, to be honest. You
oh
can't see what's happening. Even Raj, he's when they're watching, they're like, "It didn't work. What did you do?" He's blaming Augie, thinking she sabotaged it, and she's like, "No, it's working
yeah like
because
it's
like
working. You
it's
just don't see it.
nanofibers. You're not gonna see them."
Yeah,
And then
dude,
just
that
people
was...
getting, yeah, like you said, Swiss cheesed.
I loved the scene. I thought it looked great, and like it's crazy how much like horror they're kind of like able to implicate without like showing like crazy violence, because it's just these lines that you just can't even see, but anything that passes through them just gets cut right in half.
Yeah.
And so it's like horrifying, but also like visually it's not like super graphic. You just like it's you know that's not like a natural like it's not someone's arm getting cut off by a sword. It literally just looks like it splits in two and then they drop.
Yeah, there's a few shots where it's like, ugh, but otherwise it's like, yeah, it's fine, I guess, because you would never see that anyway. And I think it also serves a point with, especially with Mike Evans' death, of how, I'll say brainwashed, but how committed they are. I know definitely some people are brainwashed, but how committed they are, because even at the end, he's like praying basically to the Santi.
Yeah.
As he also gets sliced. No,
that was good. That was good.
It's very good. I'm trying to think.
All right. So we've kind of talked about, we felt that the show was good. It could have definitely benefited from some more episodes to kind of flesh out, some of the, why are the scientists killing each other, and, space out these flashbacks. But they kind of moved through at the pace, which I think they're deciding what's best. And that kind of led us to getting into some book 2 and book 3 storylines in the second half of season 1 here. And I'm curious on your thoughts on, do you think that, it was like appropriate to introduce, Project Staircase and Project Wallfacer, just kind of right away season 1 and just get them out there? And then we'll kind of go into season 2 with all the aftermath of what these projects like lead to.
Yeah, thinking about it now, there's so much to talk about because they touch on literally almost everything.
They do.
I will say, I think it all depends on how they handle it. I think touching on it now probably works, just with clearly the time constraint, budget constraint, whatever you want to call it. For sure, time constraint, but I think it works because you're touching on it, and it's just leading for character development, basically, which is perfectly fine. Because if you're going to constrict, let's just say minimum 3 seasons, you at least have the threads for stuff to happen next season if you want to pick them up. You don't have to introduce something too radically different, even though for the books, at least, everything's kind of pretty radically different from each other. But at least the threads are there so that people aren't like, what's going on? And they don't have hopefully they don't have another episode 1 where they rush so fast. It's almost like Whiplash. But I think, yeah, threads. Book 2 for sure. I get it. The way they did it works fine because, to be fair, Saul Duran has been nothing until, I feel like he's been super minor until like the end, and then you're like, okay, so this is where his character will go next, which is in episode 8, which becomes a wall facer. So I think in that respect it works. I'm not too worried as long as they do their best, I guess, is all that matters,
Okay, yeah. I like that they introduced, I think they had to introduce Project Staircase, which, in case anyone needs a refresher, that is sending Will's brain up into space.
First, it was a probe, and then it became
it became a person, and then the person's too big, so we got to send just their brain. I think they had to introduce that because, like we talked about earlier, you can't do every season being brand new characters and like just completely removing all the old ones. So in order to do that, they had to bring in characters from books 1, 2, and 3 and kind of introduce them all right away. And so I do think just naturally that's going to have to push the timeline forward for some of these storylines. But I think like so far it's working, at least for Project Staircase. And then in the finale, we get the Wall Facers, which kind of an interesting like season finale, because I definitely think our predictions would have been the alien reveal, the 3-body reveal of like maybe the main characters figured out the problem by the end of the season. And then kind of what they actually did end it on was that like the bugs scene where like they show the locust and like, you know, we've been trying to kill bugs for years with pesticides, but you know, they're still here. I think that would have been like the predicted ending. But ending on Wall Facer seems kind of interesting because if they go heavy into the Wall Facers early in like season 2, I think this kind of works because I loved the Wall Facers storylines like in the book, like just trying to figure out what was going on, and like so that this could be a good recipe going forward because they introduced it right away. You know what a Wall Facer is now, and now when you start season 2, you kind of just maybe jump right into it.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with everything you said, and for season 2, jump right into it. You might have to do you don't have to introduce it anymore. You don't need to understand why Saul was picked. You don't need to show it, I should say, not understand. And just having introduced it, you're not like it's just what you said, like we have it. We can just hopefully focus season 2 mainly on the Wall Facers. I have a feeling
we might have to do season 2 predictions.
Yeah, we will. I'd say wait for maybe the trailer.
Towards next year, you know, whenever that happens.
But hopefully season 2 kicks off running with Wall Facers and the whole Wall Facer program, because it's very cool. And it's gonna have to be for another episode, but
it sounds like maybe you don't want to spoil anything. But who? Let's go with this. So who is your favorite character in book 2, and who are they being portrayed by here in season 1 that you didn't really learn?
Our favorite character is Luoji. He's a beast.
And what's his name though in season 1? Because
in season 1, Luoji is gonna be Saul Durand.
Saul Durand, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think he was gonna be. I thought he was gonna be like Jack, kind of just a side like character to add some, you know, additional relationships to our main characters and like be a help. But no, he's pretty important.
He's had some moments, but I think I can't remember what episode it was. But I was like, I think it's when you texted me what episode 8 was, because I didn't finish it till yesterday. But when you texted me the name of episode 8, I'm like, I know exactly who they're gonna pick.
Yeah. But do you think it's a good pick? Like, do you think the actor is like conveying what Luoji was?
From what we've seen, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
It's not gonna be our man Luoji, but that's because we had like 20 plus hours to like him.
I'm looking forward to Saul Durand in season 2. Like I think his character can kind of perfectly embody, and they were already nailing it at the end of season 1 with he's like, all right, I am rejecting the Wall Facer oath. I am not a Wall Facer. And they're all like, yep, we understand. Cool. But then they just stay right there with him the entire time.
He even mentions it. He's like, why are they smiling at me?
Here? Like, why are you still here?
They're smiling at me like I know what's next, or they know what I'm planning. It's just like, no.
And there's one where like he's like, so you understand I've rejected the oath. And he's like, yep, I completely understand you've rejected the oath. And but he won't leave. He's like, I'm your
assistant guy.
Yeah, I'm here to be your liaison towards what is it? The Planetary Defense Council?
Council.
Yeah,
PDC.
Which we didn't really touch on this, so I'll just bring it up quick. But I feel like that was a lot more prevalent, at least in the Chinese adaptation of the show. And I don't remember the books perfectly, but they definitely were not in this a lot.
No, so I feel like it was called the PDF, Planetary Defense Force, but maybe not.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the book, like straight on, it's literally okay, so if we focus on the show, Wade is basically the overall guy in charge. In the books, it's literally a Planetary Defense Council, which is like made up of all I want to say mostly the military governments, but most of the governments all band together to make this like kind of a secret force because they don't want to make it public.
It's not public, yeah.
And they're basically the ones in charge. So if you transplant Wade for them, that's what they'd be. So they don't do.
But that just goes into they needed to introduce Wade before season 2, so they need to give him a role kind of, and I think that was the best fit.
And I think, he works. And going back to like the UN Council thing where they actually come out publicly is where we're introduced for them in the show, and they were like, I think throughout all 3 books they're prevalent. And here it seems like maybe only 2, but like I said, Wade fills that role, so he can kind of be seen as the main guy, and even he says it that in the future they'll need him. Just kind of cocky, but whatever.
We're gonna need you.
I just like, and I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I just like the little threads they toss out there that if you've listened to or read all 3 books, you'd see where certain stuff is going. But I will say one other thing, just to kind of mirror the in the show, the PDC, is there is no official like ETO. If you agree with that thought, and the ETO is the Earth Trisolaran Organization in the books, which would be what all the Santi sympathizers, followers, whatever you want to call them, would be in the books,
and they had
in the show.
Had factions in the books.
They had factions.
I wonder if they kind of looked at that and they're like, we don't need factions with amongst these fanatics. Let's just have them be who they are.
I think using the frame of the show and like the books separately, they work for each. I think they could have, but as we've been saying, time constraints is everything.
If anything, it would still be possible to see these factions emerge. In season 2, now the Earth is aware that the aliens are coming, so we might see some factions emerge of like, oh, let's let them take over, or like no, let's not do that.
I think it'll turn more into, instead of being like the secret, well, in the books they even call them terrorists. I think if seeing how it's going, it'll probably be like literally like how we have now, and it's just like another organization. So, instead of a tree hugger, you'll have Santi huggers.
A Santi hugger.
So we'll see. Probably it'll do into that versus like the secret organization that is kind of in the shadows, trying to make certain stuff happen. So I could see why they left it out. Like we said, time, but I do feel like it kind of misses out a pretty, maybe not a big plot point, but like certain character motivations. But I don't know, it's nothing major. Like the show isn't suffering without it. It's more of a if you know the books, then you're missing out, but it doesn't derail anything.
As long as the show is still good, I think that's the ultimate goal. Can we enjoy the show, and can they tell like a compelling story that is true to Three Body, but obviously not a direct like copy of it from the books.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, we kind of touched. Interesting. I guess it might be a time jump, but oh wait, no, it might not be. Never mind. I was gonna mention Augie, but I think stuff that happens in book 2 is casually mentioned.
Okay.
What I will say is I do like they kept the scene of Clarence talking about how we try to kill bugs. I think that's definitely
it was a good ending. That's a good way to
it just gives
people hope.
Characters hope.
Yeah.
Makes them be like, see, we've been trying to do it and they haven't, so
even if we are bugs, like we can survive.
Yeah.
That was good.
And it makes them want to get to work. I don't know how it'll work with Saul Durand, but we'll see. Mr. I don't want to be a wall facer, but
I thought it was good. Real quick, I've got a quick question. Just putting the books aside completely, so no, just nothing to do with the books, show only. Who was your favorite character in season 1?
Oh wow.
Was it any of the Oxford 5? Or did none of them really truly get enough time?
I don't think they got. I like Jack because he was funny.
I did like Jack as well because he was funny. That's a good one.
But I wouldn't say a favorite. I don't think the Oxford 5 were favorites.
I've got a clear favorite that I think was the best character in season 1.
Are we talking about best character or like?
Yeah, but your best
like
favorite.
Just
who is your favorite? Just who is your favorite? I'm saying mine is the favorite. My favorite just happens to be the one that I think is one of the better ones.
I'll give like a half answer would be Wade.
Yep, that's exactly. I was gonna say Thomas Wade was by far my favorite character in season 1.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, I didn't mean half answer. He's my favorite character as well because he's literally plays like kind of the mastermind, but you're understanding his motivations at least for the most part.
I feel like Liam Cunningham, the actor, I feel like he was perfect for the role.
He's very good.
Yeah.
He just, even though like clearly he's an asshole and you can see the ego and like certain stuff, but you can tell that with all that, like he probably, maybe not character development, but like he's just,
well, yeah, because he's not a main character, so like we're not seeing like him.
But it's literally maybe just the acting.
I just think he did a presence. Yeah, he's a presence when he's on screen. I think his line deliveries were great. And like I was talking with Prentice when we were watching, like he's like arguably one of the most important people, like maybe on Earth at that point in time, just with like the defense of the planet. But we were just talking about like how he's so serious all the time, but like nonchalant about it. Mm-hmm. And the scene with Raj, and he's like, "All right, Raj,
opening the window.
I got 3 minutes for you." And then he starts by saying, "But it's stuffy in here. Open that window." And then Raj is like, "Oh, this is a test. I can't. It's a window that won't open." And he just walks over there.
He gets up,
opens it, sits down, and when he sits down, he goes, "You've got 2 minutes, Raj." Like, yeah, it was just perfect delivery. Like, I just feel like Wade's character, whenever he was on screen, you were like interested. You're like, "Oh, this guy means business," but he's also just doesn't come across as like too anal about things. It's just,
he's definitely not a nice guy. And that comes out with like certain comments, but he just nails, and obviously it's Liam Cunningham, so he's a scene stealer, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I said show only because I truly wanted to like Dasha the best, but I just there's not enough time of him trying to uncover this mystery. Like he's just such a minor character for
that's why
for most of it.
I meant to say he was my half answer of being a favorite, but
and it we do see at the end he's gonna be the protector for Saul Durand, so he's got he might have a bigger role going forward here, but I wanted him to be my favorite character, but
yeah, he
it's
was
okay.
Yeah, he. Yeah.
yeah.
Who? There's one thing that you mentioned. Oh, this is like super minor, but when Clarence's son shows him like his idea, I'm just like, when talking about like, oh, you invest in this, so then later down the line we could build these ships. I'm like, this man, like, isn't an engineer, isn't a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Like, what, we could just build a fund. Like, that's how that works. That's super minor, but I remember I was like, if I was Clarence, I'd be like, man, get this out of my face.
Get this out of here.
It's random, but like, I remember I was just like, what does this man have? Like, you're just making ship designs and you're like, this is what it's gonna be one day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also wanted Augie, like, and it goes back to it. I'll say it 1,000 times. If just more episodes, more time, but like truly like getting Augie's perspective early on and like making me like fear for her life with the countdown. I think she could have been an amazing character, and instead it was kind of just like, we're gonna rush through this early stuff and get to the stuff that we think the viewers are going to be interested in, which it seems like they have a idea with that. But
yeah, I think Augie, she definitely feels like she serves for literally for now. Who knows what in the future, but
just the
her
nanofibers.
Only purpose, was the nano,
which is a shame.
I mean, not to spoil or like talk about the book again, but that is kind of what book one character Wong Mao, obviously he's only literally in the first book, but he's kind of has bigger impact that we'll see what happens in season 2.
Yeah, but it's like the same big contribution of the nanofibers, but it's just like he's a main character, whereas Augie's kind of just like, she's part of the Oxford Five, which are the main characters, but we really don't spend that much time like with just her, I feel like.
And anytime you do, like she's with someone else or like she's drinking. Except for the end when she's helping.
Yeah, she's in Mexico, right? Helping people.
Yeah, she's in Mexico.
Shout out Augie.
Making filters for their wells.
So that is important stuff. So there definitely could be storylines for her going forward. They could definitely like keep her around. It's just a wish of mine to have visited the countdown more thoroughly.
But I think unless you have more to talk about, I feel like we've touched on a lot. There's certain stuff I don't know if you've noticed I've been purposely avoiding just because. Yeah.
I think we could talk about this forever, John. But I do think that this is probably a good stopping point.
Yeah, we've been going for like an hour.
But we should definitely consider some season 2 predictions or some true like in-depth looks at the book and compare that to the show for future episodes.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we'll definitely probably have more 3-body content. I do want to make have another episode for talking about like the actual differences, but we both, I think, kind of want to go back and like re-listen
it's been well over, I don't even remember when I listened to
a year.
3-body. Yeah, it's definitely been over a year.
To do it justice, we want to go and re-listen, and I was already planning to after the show, to be honest, just to refamiliarize myself. But later on, we'll definitely be making more content for 3-body. One of them will definitely be differences, and we'll highlight. We won't probably go too insane, but like major points. Yeah. We'll probably have to do book 1 and 2 would be my guess. A little bit of 2. or just whatever is shown in the show, talk about how it's different in the book. But that's
Alrighty.
for the future. So yeah, we've hopefully you enjoyed our free discussion. I know we jump around a lot, but we don't really have a structure to it. We just like talking about stuff we like watching or stuff we didn't like watching, which sometimes happens. But yeah, so that was us talking about the 3-Body Problem on Netflix. Hopefully we get more than 2 seasons and they don't cancel it just because they love canceling after 2 seasons.
Fingers crossed.
I would love. I could see. Man, it's tough. Hopefully 3 seasons. I would love 4 just for like we've mentioned time, but at least 3. Give us 3. 1 for each kind of section, each book basically. Even though this one's a little weird, but yeah. So that was us talking about Netflix's 3-Body Problem. Just a random shout out. Make sure if you want more, read the books. If you're interested, I think we talked about this, but there is a Chinese show, also 3-Body Problem. I'm not sure. Jacob checked. I think he said recently where it used to all be on YouTube. You'd have weird copyright issues with getting around certain audio. But there is a Chinese show you can watch, which I think we were both kind of liking. See, now it makes me want to talk about that, but maybe in the future we'll do the Netflix versus Chinese show. But if you want to watch that, otherwise, that's I've been your host, John. Thank you for joining us. Here's Jacob. Say goodbye, Jacob.
Adios, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.